So Tomb Raider: The Legend of Lara Croft is a fine addition to the catalog of video games being turned into shows and movies. But fine is all that it really is, as it fails to truly excel at anything. The story takes place after the events of the Crystal Dynamics games, and although you don't necessarily need to know the lore of those games to understand the plot here, it would help in terms of getting you emotionally invested in the psychological trauma and emotional development that Lara goes through here. Even though this seems to take place after Shadow of the Tomb Raider, for some odd reason, Lara is just now starting to grieve the death of a man who died at the end of the first game, sacrificing himself for her. Spoiler alert here, that man is Roth, who took a hatchet to the back in an attempt to save Lara from that same fate. It works well for the most part, but it never truly attempts to explain why she hasn't even remotely dealt with the grief after all this time, hasn't taken a single step, and given the other games, seems to have regressed instead, which was an odd choice, but for the sake of not having to animate the next two games and instead tell its own story, I'll give it a pass for what it's trying to do. And what it's trying to do is connect the entire universe of Tomb Raider games into one in sync timeline, which is a super big task that I don't want to understate here. Surprisingly enough, they seem to do rather well, especially with bringing Zip into the fold, who was a fan favorite due to his comedic lines in the games that he was in. The biggest caveat to that is there is a scene in this show that seems to be implying that he is gay. Applying that sexuality to him would literally be pointless, given that there are actual gay characters that they could pull from in the Tomb Raider universe, that they for some reason decided not to use. In fact, there are more scenes where homosexuality could be argued to be implied. The other ones though, like a girl possibly having a crush on Lara, are handled in ways that, although unnecessary, don't feel like something worth complaining about, especially since they are up to interpretation and that infatuation could be more of a role model type figure than an actual crush in the scene I just brought up. Even though now the writers have stupidly set themselves up to possibly take fire from both sides. The fans tired of established characters being made gay, and the side of people that want more clearly defined gay and will count this as queer baiting. Sometimes playing the middleman just puts you in the middle of a war on two fronts. I didn't bring that up just to complain about it, even though you probably have a pretty good idea at this point of what side I'm on. Instead, I brought it up to highlight a problem the writers have throughout the season, adding in scenes in rather lazy ways to further ideas even at the expense of others. For example, there is a moment where it is clearly defined that there is no way to contact the outside world given how far they are underground. This is important because it's a move that gives Lara and another character alone time that they desperately need. So far, so good, right? Well, in order to force a more specific conflict between the two, the other character whips out a phone and begins dialing for backup so Lara can interpret that in a combative way and drama can ensue, even though both characters audibly acknowledged earlier that there is no signal down here, so that call should never have even been a second thought for either of them. You know, since it's impossible. Or how about a scene where Lara literally fights like Trevor Belmont for a spell, with a weapon she has no previous combat experience with, and then never uses again as long as the series goes on. Does it look cool? Yes. Probably the most visually stunning one-on-one fight in the entire series. It just doesn't make sense for her character and actually takes up time that could have been utilized by weapons that she actually has experience with. There's also a whole thing where she acts as if taking a human life is not something she is familiar with, even though you slaughter enemies like they are nothing within the games the show is supposedly a sequel to, as well as in the games they are trying to connect a show to. So that's a bit awkward, but I don't mind it too much given how they go about it. There are a lot of moments where you need to shut off your brain if you have knowledge of the Crystal Dynamics games. Moments that will have you questioning how she represents herself, how she treats other people, stuff like that. Even without those games, however, the questions still persist. Moments where she acts like she was isekai to our world and knows nothing of manners, which will then lead to the question of how she went on those expeditions and travels if she is incapable of respecting people, cultures, and customs. Moments where she is forced to seem quirky, again at the detriment of her character, even if, again, it goes against other characterizations of her up to this point. As a beloved main character, I feel like they really missed the mark, with balancing her imagination, curiosity, work ethic, survivalist ability, and heart all into one package. Instead, she switches up randomly, even if it doesn't always make logical sense. One of the biggest saving graces for her character, beyond the awesome world she inhabits, travels she goes on, and of course, the world-ending stakes, is her relationship with the characters in the show. Sure, they are forced to be what they are with some really dumb moments, and that does do its damage. I'm not blind to that, but they are still a highlight nonetheless. Whether it's her relationship to Jonah or with the antagonist of the series, they explore the deeper, darker, more traumatized parts of her, and truly do so in a way I can give them a lot of credit for, especially in regards to her and the antagonist interactions. They have led similar lives, have similar worldviews to a point, but different end goals. There are a few scenes where they discuss their similarities and their differences, where they show their hearts as well as their hands. We've seen similar interactions, sure, but here it kept me intrigued, especially as the show's McGuffins prove that they may be more similar than even Laura would like to admit. These McGuffins are stones, a sort of Power Stones original, I know. Wrath, greed, the power to build and destroy, give and take, save and execute. Some can alter the psyche of the one that holds it, even altering their physical appearance or giving them powers beyond what a mortal man should have. The power to influence, to control, to whatever means the holder is willing to go. It sounds generic because we have seen this before, but it is used to help express emotions. They are physical weapons, sure, but they do psychological damage, which I do like as a concept. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but as an idea alone, it was definitely worth a try, even if the results were mixed at the end of the day. This is basically how I feel about the entire show, though. I feel super mixed about it. For all the good, there is bad to balance it out, making it so it's not a bad show, but not a great one either. All things considered, though, I do believe this is above average, even if only just, and I would recommend it to fans of the games for at least some turn your brain off kind of fun. It's entertaining as a treasure hunting show. It's entertaining as a show with a huge world-ending threat. It's entertaining as a show trying to delve into psychological topics, but I'm not quite sold on whether or not it is entertaining as a Tomb Raider show itself. It felt afraid to allow Laura to showcase any feminine traits to the point that she has caveman moments instead. It seemingly alters the sexuality of a character to check boxes instead of actively improve the character or the story that he is a part of. It forces weird writing moments into the plot and into relationships in order to push them in the right direction, even if it's at the detriment of the character's intelligence. The pacing is fine. The animation is admittedly good for the most part. The story is also fine. The characters are a mixed bag, and it lends itself to a rather forgettable experience that you probably won't remember a year from now. But given that it's only 8 episodes, if you want to give it a shot, you're not gonna be missing out on much one way or the other. You can watch it and you're not losing a lot of time, or you can skip it and you're not really missing out on too much that the games haven't already explored. Anyway, that's all I have to say. For more news, reviews, and whatever we choose, stay tuned to Nerdsfeed. Have a great day. Thank you.